live show is brought to you by Garden Express and Yates.
Garden Express are Australia's leading mail ordering service, offering a wide range of quality gardening products. Each week on the Garden Gurus Live, the team at Garden Express will share a weekly offer. So make sure after today's show, you jump online and visit their website.
From indoor plant care to garden weed control products, Yates is the secret to a thriving garden. Later in the show, the team at Yates will share their top gardening tips and tricks for you to try this weekend. And for more advice to make your garden bloom, head to yates.com.au. Well, hello, good morning. Welcome to the Garden Gurus Live, and thanks to Holly D for making everything happen this morning. I am Trevor Cochran, and I'm back obviously for this week's show. It has been a very busy last couple of weeks. Holly's just adjusting the screen there. There you go. For me, I've been away actually. I've been in Europe, and interestingly enough, for the whole period of time here in the West, there's been no rain. Everything's dried up. And I'm seeing that in the landscape. The change in the landscape is quite dramatic. What is probably at the moment really interesting, I think, is the fact that we are now getting a little bit more rain, which should extend things on. In Victoria, it has been very wet. In fact, I was sort of talking with my good friend Anthony Tesla this morning, and the gardens in Victoria have been quite significantly affected by this level of rainfall. It's kind of, it's consistent, it's cool, and things are just not quite happening yet. Now, good news is, of course, that spring will come, so don't worry about that. And for the rest of us in the country, I think things are quite different. Holly, I don't have any info on the screen here. That's the only thing I was going to mention to you. I was going to say to you that one of the things that you will see is things like snails and slugs obviously are going to continue on, but also because the weather's warming up, things like aphids, etc., can be quite problematic. So we'll talk about all those issues as we move through today's show. Of course, the whole purpose of being here is all about answering your gardening questions. And of course, saying hello. Troy Devereaux, hello, mate. Good morning to you. We've got a lot of questions flowing through. The Kalamunda Garden Festival has joined us this morning. Andy and Mandy, hello. Good morning to you guys. It's great to have you with us. And we've got a lot of questions that are flowing through. So I am going to look at all of those in a second when Holly sticks them up on the screen for me.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. She's working that out as we speak. One of the other things that, of course, you've got to keep in mind, of course, is every week we usually talk to Garden Express and we also talk to Yates. And both of them are obviously in Melbourne and Sydney. And, of course, you guys are enjoying the King's birthday, I think it is, holiday. I could be wrong, but definitely a public holiday over there. So we won't have the teams from Garden Express or Yates with us this morning, but we will still cover off some of their things. So we've got a great offer for you. I will talk about that a little bit further down the line. Holly's made some things happen for me, which is great. We've of course got our $50 Garden Express gift voucher sitting for the best question of the day. What else have we got? We have got weather. That's it. Today it's only 19 degrees maximum temperature in Perth, 18 in Sydney, 17 in Melbourne. Brisbane is 21, but there's a shower or two. Adelaide 22 and sunny, and of course Hobart 17. And Darwin, well, it's always 33, isn't it? So that's kind of where we're sitting at the moment with regards to weather. This is an important part of each week's session because, of course, the weather really does impact our gardens and the things that we do in them. Which gets me to your questions because we've got a heap of them coming through. I think what I'll do is I'll answer your first question, then we might just go to the Garden Express deal. Let's have a bit of a look. Okay. Wackatoos. I'm going to say it's Wackatoos in Toowoomba in Queensland. I don't have Facebook, but I was wondering if you have some tips on how to deter noisy miners. They become aggressive towards the other birds, and the populations, and the bee population has been declining. Of course, they will kind of eat those sorts of things. Okay, I do have a little suggestion for you, and it's a very simple one, but there's two things that really disturb them and will get them to move away a little bit. One is fine tape. So you can buy this. I think Garden Express might actually sell it. I could be wrong, but and it's basically just a fine tape that you tie and tension between trees, and that will make a big difference with regards to their activity. So they tend to sort of move away. The other one is the old-fashioned one of compact discs and hanging a few of those from some trees. The glittering of the silver in the sunlight tends to disturb them. They become agitated, so that tends to get them to move on. Two things. I would suggest you try those and see how you go. All right. Shall we get into the Garden Express deal of the day? That's probably what we should start with, I think. So let's have a bit of a look. Garden Express, your online garden centre. Of course, it's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and they've got some amazing deals. And here's what we've got this week. It's hostas, right?
To stunning foliage in shaded areas, it really is hard to go past the beautiful hosta. Now, these originated in eastern China, but a lot of the many loved forms were introduced to Europe from Japan. Well, Garden Express has a stack of them here, and they are absolutely amazing. Look at the quality. Seriously, they are second to none. From what I've noticed over the years, after soil, the next big challenge gardeners face is sunlight. Even if you live in the sunniest place in the world, your home will always have an area that's shaded most of the day. Common question. So what can we grow in the shade that doesn't just survive, but thrives and looks a real treat? Answer, hostas. Garden Express know it, they grow it, and they tow it direct to your door. The team at Garden Express have curated 2 collections of 6 pots each, now for only $45. That's a saving of over 30%. Only the best quality stock from their statement range, such as Minuteman, Blackfoot, Grandiflora, Crosso Regal, Catherine and Robert Frost. So if you want to jazz up those shaded areas, get yourself some of these beautiful hostas at gardenexpress.com.au. It's 24/7 shopping and they deliver it to your door. Hasta la vista, baby.
Hostella Vista. Oh, seriously. God, tell you what, he's a great talent, isn't he? He's been a terrific addition to our team. He's doing an amazing job. The hosta is a remarkable plant, and one of the questions that I do get asked all the time is about sort of plants for shady positions. So to have something like hostas, which do come in a whole range of different colours and shapes and sizes, etc., is perfect, because they are the great under canopy plant, which really is the point that I think's been made here. Now, it's a great deal. It's a 30% saving, $45 for a pot, and there's a collection of 6. So you can't go wrong. That's a huge deal. Normally valued at $69.40, but Garden Guru viewers, $45. David, Rowan and the team have done an amazing job. That is just fantastic. So if you're thinking about a beautiful foliage plant for a shady spot, then that's the way to go. All right, Deborah Pereira, let's roll through questions. Hello, I've got a grafted peach nectarine tree. It's in a pot, but I'm in an area with fruit fly. I was told to net after pollination. Question is, how do I know when that is? You know what? It's not that important, Deborah. It's the basically fruit fly. This is something that nobody's probably going to tell you, but fruit fly are effectively colorblind. They see predominantly sort of a range of colors from sort of orangey, red, yellow, sort of in that spectrum, and they see blue. So if you want to sort of control them, the best thing to do is to get in before your fruit changes colour, because as soon as it changes colour, that's when they're attracted. So putting exclusion fruit fly netting around individual fruit, and you can buy them as little fruit pouches. That's the right word I was thinking of. And you can literally just tie them around the outside of the fruit. It's such an easy way to go to actually to exclude and then to preserve individual fruit. It's not easy if you've got a larger tree though, and that's quite a problem. And throwing fruit fly netting over the top's not going to work. So that's where you have to go to things like baits or traps. Those two things are probably the most effective ways to do it. So hopefully that little bit of advice will help, because it's only when the fruit changes colour that you end up with that kind of situation occurring. Maria Wilson, hello, you've sent us some photos. Fantastic, thank you. I was just hoping you could help with my native gardenias. Right, you can kind of see these. I think, I don't know actually what is going on there. That's really quite odd, because if you can see there's 3 trees there. The one on the far right looks a bit too yellowish to me. The one in the middle looks okay, but not as big as the one on the far right. And the one on the left looks really like it's struggling. In fact, I would say that it has got to the point where it's really in trouble. Now, the only way to bring something like that back, and I can see it's got, the interesting thing is it's got plants around the base, like that Philodendron Xanadu, that is incredibly healthy. But this all says to me that there's something wrong with the soil. And I can't tell you what it is, except for to suggest that maybe there's some sort of building rubble or something, some lime sitting underneath those trees. First is that they do look too yellow for my liking. They shouldn't be that sort of light greeny colour. And if you have a look at it, folks, you can kind of see that there is a significant difference between the one on the far right, the middle one, and then, of course, the one with no foliage. What I would be doing straight away, and it'd be quite a strong mix I would recommend, is that I would be drenching the ground around the root system of these plants with sea salt. Sea salt, more often than not, has actually, has been a thing where it stimulates new root growth and really does get them going. And I'm just kind of looking, I really do think that there's something quite serious going on in the soil down deep. This isn't a fungal disease. This isn't some kind of insect problem. This is something to do with the soil, and I suspect that it is when they're getting the roots down, they're hitting something, and it could be something like I've suggested, like lime. When builders often do rendering of lime on walls, on whatever they've done, and they often pour buckets of it onto the soil, and that can be quite problematic. So yeah, they don't look happy. But my only suggestion to you at the moment is that you take a look at some sea salt. BJ Thurks, hey mate, how you going, Brad? Love the beard. Thank you. That's great. I know Christine Rankin will love the beard too, so that's terrific. Outback Annie's. Hello, Annie. How are you? It's nice to have you joining us again this morning. Definitely, for your fernery, your hostas would be sensational. Great. Jump onto it while you can, because I do know that there is very limited numbers, but they are a beautiful plant and one that's just not common to get your hands on. So that's really the take-home message I got for you. Donna Donald, you're in Castlemaine. Hello, got a KQU lawn. I've had a lot of big frost this year. My lawn still hasn't come back, and it will do. Like KQ of all the turf grasses is the one that handles really difficult cold conditions better. It'll grow during winter and grow during summer, but of course it grows so much better during summer. It comes from Africa. It's a really, really hardy turf. So I would suggest that maybe giving it a bit of a feed might be the solution. That's all I can suggest at the moment. Donna, we just need some warm weather. That'd be the ideal scenario. Anna Fernandez, hello, you sent us a photograph. Wondering why the protea leaves have brown spots. They do have brown spots. And, one of the things we know about proteas is that they're very much like Australian native plants. In fact, we have plants from the Proteaceae family, quite common in Australia, things like banksias, that get the same kind of look when the wrong kind of fertilizer is used, or even if it's not a fertilizer, if it could just be a buildup of something that has very high levels of phosphorus in them, and that's what's going on here. This is not happy for that reason. And the best thing you can do at the moment is probably scrape away the mulch from around the base of it, is to give it a really good watering, like soak the soil, wash that, whatever you've got, phosphorus is highly soluble, so wash it through the soil, and then only use Australian native plant fertilizers. Holly's just said, are they not native? No, these Proteas, and this is the King Protea, they all come from South Africa. So it's a really, really important thing to know. They do not like high levels of phosphorus. The blackening on those leaves is a fairly common kind of problem. I've seen it in my own garden, where I've had some soil that's obviously had a fair bit of phosphorus in it, planted in Proteas and Waratahs, and seen the same effect. So let's have a bit of a look here. Tony Seglem, you're in Melbourne. Hello, I've got a lot of tropical plants in Melbourne. Troy will love this one. I was wondering, besides systemic granules, what would you suggest is a good bug killer? Well, I wouldn't worry about killing bugs unless you got them. That's the first thing I would say to you. If you're thinking about sort of preventative, then the granules are often a good way to go, because they do release slowly through the soil. They are taken up through the root system. And that is quite an effective way to do it. But honestly, I wouldn't pre-treat. I would wait until you see insects and then address them on a one-on-one basis. Last week we talked about the Yates Advanced, which, excuse me, used to be called Baythroid, and it's a really effective way to control plants systemically. It kills on contact, but it does have a long-term effect for sure. So that's my recommendation, Tony, is probably, if you're going to do anything, go for one of the spray-ons. But the granules are great, but I wouldn't do it unless you got a bug. That's kind of the thing. Otherwise, you're killing all the good things in the soil as well. Lisa Edwards, you're in Nambour, one of my favourite places in Queensland. It's a comment. Morning, beautiful gurus. Thank you, Lisa. Looking forward to all spring news. I've topped my grass and repotted heaps of pots, just waiting for fruit and colour. Love, love, love you all. Love you back, Lisa. Thank you. That's such a lovely, positive comment. I really do appreciate your feedback, and same to you. Hope your lawn and hope your garden is just springing into action right now, and that you'll see lots and lots of colour and lots of fruit real soon. Pamela Adams, hello. Just wondering if you have any success using something like crushed up eggshells to deter snails. Got dogs who like the taste of snail pellets. Bad news. Pamela, yes, it does work. It is a bit of a problem, to be quite honest, with dogs and snail pellets. And I know last week we talked about the new iron-based snail pellets that Yates have put out. They seem to do the job really well, and it's certainly what we prefer to use here. But one of the things that you cannot, those old-fashioned ones with metaldehyde in them, you can't use it. It's just too risky. So crushed eggshells, absolutely. Anything that's gritty, snails and slugs won't cross over. So there's a little bit of advice there. Thank you. Christine Rankin, you're in New Zealand. Hello. How you going? What do you think of this beard? It's coming along pretty well, isn't it? Yeah, I don't know whether I need to shave it or not, but anyway, I suppose I've got BJ who's supporting me out there. And Holly's mum likes a beard too, so good on you, Holly's mum. Thank you, everybody, for the support. Rhonda Churchill, by the way, Christine, have a lovely holiday. I'm sure that's what you're doing. Rhonda Churchill, I've got a problem with agapanthus taking over a small area. I hate them so much. I want to get rid of them by cutting them down and poisoning them with something. They can be a weed. They can be a massive asset in a garden too. In a lot of places, they have been, of course, they've been banned. They've become a declared weed, and that's a bit of a problem. I would suggest to you that probably the only thing that you really can do is use something that's going to be really quite quite burning on them. So if you cut them down and then you sprayed with something like the geranium-based insecticides, that's Slasher and things like that. They've got it's effectively an acid, and it burns off the top. It doesn't kill off the root system, so there's a possibility it could reshoot. Of course, you could go for the traditional glyphosate-based sprays. They will kill them, roots and all, and I wouldn't use anything stronger than that. Obviously, we know that glyphosate has some pretty significant issues. We need to be careful with it. But as far as killing these kinds of things off, it might be the only option you've got. Sandy Jewel, oh no, the mealies have found my frangies again for the 4th spring in a row. I would love to have a look at the mealies, Sandy. Not that they don't get onto frangipanis, but they generally don't knock them around. They just don't get that bad. What it could be, though, this could be something that's damaging the stem, causing the frangies to bleed, and that sap is white. And that could look like mealybug. So would you do us a favour? Would you send us a photo? It'll help me just confirm that it is. If not, you're going to need to use one of those granulated systemic kind of insecticides to control it. It's the only way to do it on something that's so much larger. All right, let's keep rolling through. Where are we at? We're at 10:26. Got half an hour of questions, so let's fly through them. Lorraine Patel, I'm not sure. Oh, you're in Queensland. You wanted to ask about Troforte being available Australia-wide. It is available Australia-wide. Now, in Queensland, there's a brand new garden centre open there. It's called Eden Gardens, and I've got to think whereabouts in Brisbane it is, but I know that sells it. What I would do, Lorraine, is I would jump onto the Troforte website, because independent garden centres sell it. And there was definitely a good supply in Queensland the last time I was up your way, which it's been a while, but I'm sure it's there, Troforte. You can get your hands on it. Tarina Gibson, hello. I hope I got that right. Just wondering if I can help you. Sorry, you've asked me the question. I've seen an episode of yours on golden cane palms. Want to cut out the trunk to stop them from growing so tall. Just can't remember which episode it was on, and hope you can help. Well, I can't answer what episode that was on, because the series that we're in at the moment is series 37, and we've got 850 episodes that we've produced in the last 20 years, Tarina. It's crazy, isn't it? But look, the thing about taking golden cane palms out is they're a clumping palm. So any other palm you can't cut back, but clumping palms, you can take stems out. So any of the bigger stems, don't be scared to take them out. And what will happen is, by taking them out, any of the smaller growth that's around the base will suddenly get all the energy that was going up into those big stems. That'll go into the smaller ones, and they'll fill out really quickly and continue to cluster and clump, which is the great thing about golden cane palms. And I have this situation myself. I've only just recently gone and done it again, and it does make a really big difference. Okay, Waraki Rupieri, you're in. I hope I got that right. You're in Gosnells. Excuse me if I didn't. Got a Hoya plant. Wondering if it needs feeding. It only flowers. It's only flowered once. Okay, they do need feeding. They do really appreciate feed, and they do appreciate, if you're going to feed them, don't feed them with a high nitrogen fertilizer. So a lot of the fertilizers are high nitrogen, but the ones that are designed for fruit and flower, they're not. And that'll stimulate really good flowering. So, and you probably should feed them once every 3 months. I wouldn't do it any less than that. There is a Troforte product out there that does do that. And I don't know if Yates still do Thrive for flower and fruit, but that was a great liquid fertilizer that you could literally water over the foliage. So I'm sure there's probably those options out there. Aruni, hello. Jasakira, you're in Ardros, which is in WA. We're all in WA at the moment. We're basically in Queensland and WA, from what I can see of all the people that are tuned in currently. Yes, and the numbers are building. That reminds me, before I answer your question, Aruni, please hit like. If you like what we're doing, hit like. It shares it with your friends and it helps build up our numbers of people that are participating, which keeps the diversity right up there, which is really cool. Aruni, you've got a 30-year-old big mango tree in Ardros. It's got woody lateral root. It's gone onto the paving. Now, the paving's very loose and a bit of a hazard. Is it okay to cut the root off? If it's a 30-year-old tree, it's not going to be relying on one root. By cutting that root out, and you need to do that with paving, you don't want to trip over or hurt yourself, but by cutting that root out, you may end up actually stimulating more strong growth in that tree. Be unlikely that you'd set it back. But what I would do is I would cut that root off, then I'd get some sea salt. Remember, sea salt's not a fertilizer. It's a plant tonic. And what it does is it stimulates new root growth, but it also takes transplant shock. It takes shock from root damage and also from extreme weather conditions, and reduces the effect on the plant. Doesn't always stop it altogether, but generally it'll keep it looking good. We'll stay in Perth for a moment. Carol Bush, my sweet peas are flowering after a few warm days. Good news, because you brought up that you were worried they weren't, which is fantastic. Okay, we're heading in the right direction. Now, I've got a lot of photographs sitting in front of me suddenly, and I'm going to have a look and tell you what it is. Diana Varela. Gee, you guys are testing me this morning. I hope I got that right, Diane. Let's have a bit of a look at your question first. I'm wondering if you can help me. I need some suggestions of what I could plant behind our retaining wall. I planted Hardenbergia further down, but I'd like to plant something in the front area. What I've done in the past was to remove some of the red scoria rocks. Okay, if you can see these photos, you can see the challenge that Diane has, and it's not a very wide bed. This is very narrow. So you're limited with regards to what you can put in, and things like Hardenbergia are great. Okay, so that's the native wisteria. It's got, it's a climber. It'll cover the fence. It'll look fantastic, and it's a really good thing to have done. So you've got something pretty good there. If you're looking for something to cascade over the front of it, I'm going to come up with something a little bit different for you. I'm going to suggest that you look at Scabiolo. Scabiola's it's known as the fan flower. There's a whole heap of different varieties, and they range from a white to a pink to a beautiful blue flowers, and they are in the masses. I'm talking about literally hundreds and hundreds of flowers in flower right at the moment. I've got them in the garden beds sitting in front of our offices here in Subiaco, and just looking at just before when I went across the road and got a coffee, they are a standout. So maybe they're the way to go, Diane. Scaviolas, and there's a whole bunch, but they're known as the fan flower, and they're a native plant. So that's a good way to go. Let's go to Coffs Harbour. Okay. This is Cheryl Whitlock. We're on a property. I've got small Kintia palms in the ground. We had them in for the last year. They're head height, just starting to take off. We've got 2 dams, and we've swapped watering over to the water from the bottom dam. And I think the water is turning my palms yellowish. Okay, that's a really interesting thing, Cheryl. Get a pool testing kit from your local pool store. Test the water of the dam. If it's alkaline, which I suspect is what you think's going on here, if it's alkaline, it'll change the pH of the soil, and that locks up some of those greening elements, things like iron, magnesium, manganese. Some of those are just not available to the plant, and that's why you'll start to see that yellowing. But I would say to you that it's not uncommon this time of the year, coming out of winter and really cold conditions, that palms, in particular Kintias, will go a bit yellowish anyway. Regardless, you need to feed them. That's the first thing. I would get a really well-balanced fertilizer down, and if you're really, really yellow, then you can kind of boost the soil by using something like iron sulfate, which will help turn them dark green quite quickly. But I suspect it's more probably cold weather than it's anything. But test the water, those pool testing kits. If your pH is alkaline, then that's what's going on. All right. We've got lots of questions coming through. We'll take another couple from WA, and then let's look all over the country, because there's some great ones, particularly, as I said, coming in from Queensland. Lynn Winstanley. Hello, Lynn. Good morning to you. Following on from your answer, reusing sea salt for those sad gardenias, you said use a strong dose. What dilution would you recommend? I would recommend you double the recommended rate. And I can't tell you what that is off the top of my head, but the thing with sea salt is it's not a fertilizer. So there's no nutrients in there that are going to burn the plant as such. As long as you're using the traditional original sea salt, you'll be fine. But it will help get the root system growing. But in your case, your sad gardenias, I think, are, again, because of that cold weather and probably because of a lack of iron in the take-up. They do yellow off during the winter months and the latter part of winter, and certainly because those greening nutrients are locked up in the soil. So again, I'd be feeding them more than anything. I wouldn't probably worry too much about sea soil. You can double your dose on plants that are things like being transplanted or any sort of root damage, any kind of stress, those sorts of things. You can do that with sea salt, but I wouldn't be doing it. I'd be using a fertilizer with a very high iron content in it at the moment. Lynn, hopefully that helps. Lisa Tunnell, you're in Mundaring. That is up in the Perth Hills. Do I have any recommendations for hardy hedging plant that's quite narrow, 1 metre, preferably 2 metres tall? So you probably have to be quite careful. And what I mean by that is that if we were to use something like any of the lily pillies, for example, which are the common sort of hedging plants, they will get to 2 metres tall. But the problem with them is their root system. And I'm not quite sure from what you're telling me whether they're in a narrow bed against a fence or they're contained or whether it's just a narrow garden bed. If it's a narrow garden bed and there's lots of soil for those roots to go through, no problems. Lily pillies are a great one to go with. But if not, you really need to be very careful, and you might even want to think about putting a frame up and putting some climbers up across it. A photo would really help, Lisa, if you can. Take a photo and send it through and I'll answer it next week, I promise. Jeanette Fenton is in Glenorchy in Victoria. Hello, Jeanette. I'm late, sorry. Well, I'm glad you joined us, thank you. Found these little bug type things by the gazillions, oh dear, on your plum tree yesterday. They seem to be glued on. They won't come off with a hard spray of water. My plum tree's looking good. Tiny little fruit over it. I'm wondering whether you got scale on your plum. It's not an unusual thing, and you do see them quite a lot at the moment. Spray your plum with some horticultural oil. That could be white oil. It could be eco oil, any of those. Spray over the tree now, okay, before there's too much growth and too many fruit. It will knock them back if there's scale, and that's what I think you've got. Hopefully that helps. Jeanette. Susan Robinson, hello, staying in Victoria. You're in Geelong. Do tomatoes grow well in a greenhouse if there is no or very few pollinators around? So generally you actually do have to manually pollinate the flowers. So it's like getting a little paintbrush and just tickling each flower and moving from one to the other, and that will do the pollinating. It's worth doing. It might take you 15 to 20 minutes or something to go through a small greenhouse and do that maybe 2 or 3 times, and then once you've done it, it's fine. It's great. It's no problems at all. Jacintha. Okay, Jacintha, you're in Raceview in Ipswich. Hello. Quick question about mold and black spots. Oh, sorry. No. Sorry, I've jumped. Which is a better mulch for veggies and flowering garden beds and fruit trees? Is lupin or pea straw much better? And also, does it add nutrients back in the soil? Both of them are fantastic. Excuse me. Both of them are absolutely fantastic. And they do put nitrogen back into the soil. So, yeah, you can't go wrong. This time of the year is a good time of the year to be using lupin mulch. I prefer to use it myself, and it's absolutely fantastic. I would be using pea straw and improving the soil and treating it like a mulch in a nice big thick way if I had access to it, but I don't have access to it. So either one of them, you can't go wrong. Rodney Begedja, I hope I got it right. You're in Ipswich, Raceview, sorry. Just a quick question about mold and black spots on Farmer Rod's pawpaws. Okay, right, you're in Ipswich. I wouldn't have thought it was too cold, but mold and black spot tends to be caused by cold weather. So you just need some warm weather, to be quite honest. You can spray them. That will definitely help a little bit, and probably using something like Coside. It's a copper spray, and it's very good. When it comes to mold and black spot, just as a general comment, it's usually not a fungus. It's actually a bacteria that's causing this problem, Rodney. That's why copper is the recommendation that I put forward. It tends to clean those things up, stop it from spreading. As soon as the warm weather comes, of course, new foliage will come and the old foliage will fall off and you won't have a problem. when it does fall off, don't either go through and pick it off, or alternatively, don't leave it on the ground, because the spores, if you like, of that bacteria will get into the soil, and it'll be sitting there waiting till next winter, and then it'll be ready to go again. The other thing is that a lot of bacteria is actually common. Things like Pseudomonas, which is the one that causes black speck in things like tomatoes. It's actually spread through water. So try, if you're using bore water or tank water or any of those sorts of things, try not to water the foliage until we get some hot weather. Hopefully it helps. Rodney, good on your farmer, Rod. Jeanette Fenton, thank you. Read the plum tree. I'm on my way home from Horsham. I'll get into the the horticultural white oil spray today. It'll make a big difference, Jeanette. Thank you for the feedback. Sandy, just to follow up, the mealybug have decimated my frangipanis in previous years. All growth on the white evergreen frangipani was so distorted and dead that I cut it to the ground. Gee, all other frangipanis have had a hard prune this year. All right, I recommend you do look at something like Rich Grow Bug Killer is the one I'm going to suggest. It's a granular insecticide. It's systemic. So you spray that over the ground, or you don't spray it, you spread it over the ground, I should say, and it'll be taken up by the plant's roots, and it will control them. And it's the only way to do it. So hopefully that helps. Sandy Jewell in Brisbane sent us a beautiful photo. Look at these orchids. How magnificent are they? Now, swamp orchids, you're in Brisbane, been in the same pot for 4 years, haven't fed them, just kept the water up when necessary. Should I repot them? And when, as there are fewer and shorter stems this year? Okay, well, the answer is, if you look at the foliage, you can see they're not 100% happy. They do need a feed. They do need probably a spray with white oil. And the best thing to do is let them finish flowering and then go through and do the division, break them up a little bit. I would probably give them a very strong spray with white oil just to clean them up. That looks to me more like either a bacterial or possibly a scale kind of insect. I'm not quite sure, but I'd say probably scale. And so white oil will really do the job on them. Fresh soil, there's a terrific Osmocote blend of organics that they use. I think there's a coarse one and a fine one. I could be wrong, but be perfect for the potting mix if you don't have a lot of bark. Let's have a bit of a look here. A lot of people have sent in photos this week, which is fantastic. Holly's going to share this clip with you now, just show you how to do it, but it really helps me a lot. Let's have a look at this clip. Gardening question you'd like us to answer, and you need to send us a photo. We'll simply head to our Facebook page and click on message. Type out your question and click the camera icon to take a photo in the app. Or click the image option and select the image you want to send us. Be sure to allow Facebook access to your camera and camera roll. We check our messages regularly, so sit back and be sure to tune in to the Garden Gurus Facebook Live show every Friday, and you'll hear your answer. Just looking at that guy there, I don't know, he seems familiar to me. It's just doesn't have a beard. Isn't it weird about beards? How many people have got such a strong view on me having a beard? And I did have one last year. It's like the second time I've grown one, and it's attracted so much feedback from you. You either like it or you hate it. And there doesn't seem to be any middle ground at all. It's going to stay with me for a little bit longer, but then it might come off as we move closer to Christmas. We'll wait and see, hey? What do you think? Should I keep the beard or should I get rid of it? Interesting. All right, now, look, I'll fly through your questions. They keep going through. Now, Jacintha asked about the gladioli bulbs. Now, we did that last week with the guys from Garden Express, and they are now's the time, I should say, to be getting your hands on them, and they've got a good range of different gladioli. I bought my first batch off them, it must be the best part of 6 or 7 years ago, and they just keep coming up year in, year out now. I don't do anything. I don't take them out of the soil. They just sit in the soil. They'll die down when they finish flowering. They are incredible. So The thing with it is that you want to get your hands on them now. So gardenexpress.com.au, you can shop 24/7, and the best thing about them is they deliver direct to your door. And the best thing about you, Jacinta, is that Holly has you right up there with the best question of the day, because you said Holly's doing an amazing job behind the scenes. I think we all love you. Thank you, Jacinta. That's lovely. Holly is doing an amazing job behind the scenes. We do love her. Okay, Denise Lister, hello. I'm not sure where you are, Denise. Just a little reminder, folks, when you send me your question, let me know where you are. We've got we've got questions coming in from Victoria, from Perth, but Denise, I'm not sure where you're from. So don't hesitate to let us know. You got a pink flowering, looks like a dragon fruit flower, in a large hanging pot. Birds have dropped what looks like a native fig seed right in the middle of the said pot. Of course they have. Can I use a herbicide on it without killing off my plant? I think I would. Look, if it's a fig and it's in a pot and it's only a little seedling, I'd pull it out. I don't think I would. If it's really growing strongly, I'd cut it back to ground level carefully around the outside, but I wouldn't use a herbicide with that. If it's a dragon fruit-like flower, it's definitely an epiphytic cacti and not good for you. Not good for you overall, I think, to have that. So, yeah. Cut it out. I reckon that's the way to go. Glennis Robinson, you're in Victoria. How long does it take for frangipani cuttings to strike? You've got them in your greenhouse in a sunny spot, but you're in Victoria. It's true. It's a bit cooler, and of course they are a tropical plant. Typically, you'll see callousing after about 6 weeks. Roots will emerge immediately after that, and your cuttings will start growing away after about 12 weeks. That's normally the sort of time frame I would experience, but it depends. It depends. Hopefully that helps. Francis, when's the best time to plant veggies in Perth? I want to start a veggie garden with the grandkids. What are some good starters? Okay, Francis, a little bit of a rundown. The first thing you need to do, make sure you've got good soil. So if you're planting into the ground and your soil's reasonable, adding something like cow manure and digging it into the soil is a great way to go. It'll just improve the organic content, the carbon content in the soil. That's important because what happens is when you fertilize, the nutrients go down, but they get sucked up into that sort of carbon material and held longer. So it's a really good thing to do. And look, the other thing is, because the grandkids want to see results, do some of those fast growing things, carrots and radish. They're the instant pleasers. Within a few weeks, lettuce, within a few weeks, you'll be harvesting. So they'll feel like, oh, wow, this really works. But put some of the staples in, some of the things like tomatoes and capsicums that will take longer, but will deliver for a lot longer period of time as well. So you plant the right things, you'll keep their attention. And that's really the key to what's going on. Oh, and the only other thing I was going to say to you is that as soon as you've got your veggies into the ground, and this goes for all of us, and if you're not doing it, if you're not following up with food at the moment, you're really going to be disappointed with the results. You'll get reasonable results, but not as good as you should. Make sure you're feeding. Liquid fertilizers are always the best. They really are fantastic. I'm getting a bit of feedback about this beard. Gee. Let's start with the positives. Cheryl Whitlock, thank you. You like the beard. Jeanette Fenton, keep the beard. Thank you. Aruni, keep the beard. Farmer Rod, loving the beard. Christine Rankin, the beard makes you look older.
Nothing wrong with that.
Christine, over the years, I've been told to grow up on many occasions. So maybe the beard might get people to back off, telling me to grow up. Let's see how it goes. Let's see whether you grow used to it and whether I grow used to it too, because I do spend a lot of time doing this at the moment because I'm still not used to it. It's a bit of a weird thing when you've never really had one before. Jacinta, oh, you're in Parkwood. Great. Okay. Gladioli are the best. They put on a great show every year. But I have a quick question about ranunculi corms. Once they've finished for the season, do you think they need to be dug up and stored for next season? I hear they get chomped up by soil bugs if left in. And they do, actually, there are a number of grubs that do like them when they're sitting there because they're a great source of nutrient just sitting there. So they will munch on them. So it's a good idea to dig your ranunculi corms up when the plant died down, basically. So as soon as it starts dying down, pull them out of the ground, pop them into a paper bag, pop them into the shed in a cool position and in the dark, and then pull them out again. What are we talking about? May next year, and use them then. That will make a big difference. Chris Jones has got a good question. Chris says, can I vertimow my lawn now? Well, why would you vertimow your lawn? What you're trying to do is get the thatch out of the lawn. That's the old dead grass and roots that's sitting under the leaves on the top. And the answer is yes, you can. You're probably best to wait another, I'm going to tell you, 4 weeks. Depends where you are, Chris. It does help me a lot if you tell me. But really sort of late October, early November is the best time to do it. So that will help. Oh, you're in Darwin, so that makes a big difference. Do it now. Don't wait that late. Great to have somebody from Darwin joining us and asking questions too, Chris. So vertimow now. Get into it while you can. Doesn't hurt when you vertimow and you go through and take all that out. Just to do a very light top dressing with a soil improver of some sort. Like literally a small organic base over the top, and it'll really stimulate that regrowth and recovery from the damage done through the vertimowing. Vertimowing, by the way, is, mowers normally go like this. Vertimowing's when the blade goes like that and it's just ripping through the grass. So it does damage the roots, but that does stimulate new growth as well. That's why I suggested a little bit of a top dressing afterwards won't hurt it. Lillian Russell, looking to move some gardenias. Should I move them to shade or is full sun okay? When's the best time to do it? Now, it does depend. There's a lot of different varieties of gardenias. So as a general comment, shade's not going to hurt them. The ideal scenario is to have morning sun, afternoon shade if you can. And now is the best time to do it. You want to do it before. Again, I'm not sure where you are, and I'm thinking in my own garden environment, this is what I would be recommending. I would move them now and would make sure that they stay very, very moist. So dig them up, soak those roots in some sea salt, plant them, literally put some good soil in around the root system, and then give it another watering again with sea salt. Will not hurt them at all, and it should stimulate pretty good growth. The other thing is that when you're transplanting, typically you remove about 25% of the growth, and that's because you're more often than not removing at least 50% of the root system. So there's not enough roots to support that growth initially, and it takes them a long time to recover if you leave it on. But if you prune it back, it stimulates pretty strong new fresh growth, and the plant should recover quite quickly. Hopefully that helps you. All right, Trudy Lacer. It doesn't really matter where you are when you ask this question. Trudy's roses have so many aphids. Is it possible to buy ladybugs to put them on roses? Believe it or not, there is, if you Google the Good Bug Company, there are a number of good bug suppliers, and they do have predatory insects such as ladybirds. You can, if you want to try and knock the aphids back a bit, get the hose out, just hose them off initially. That'll help balance the populations out a little bit and give the ladybugs and all the beneficial insects that predate them a chance to build their populations up, because all you're doing is you get a burst of the aphids, and then populations of the predatory insects will build because they've got a good food supply. And when the food supply runs out, well, of course, their populations will decline as well. They'll move on or whatever it happens to be. But you just need to try and balance it out a little bit. You can do things like use garlic and also chili to control aphids on roses, and it will kind of knock them back. So let's keep rolling on. Glennis Robinson in Geelong. Sorry, just another question. Don't apologise. I have a macadamia in a pot. I've had it for about 3 to 4 years, but it's never flowered. How long do they take? In a pot, it's a good question. I can't say that I've seen macadamias fruiting in pots before, because they're quite a large tree. I would suggest that you probably need to take a look at at least a wine barrel half wine barrel to get them up to a decent size. And then normally macadamias within 4 to 5 years are going to be producing, really fairly good sort of quantities of nuts. I'm just reading my way through. We've got a few questions coming in about worm castings. In fact, Jacinta Agar from Parkwood has just asked if there's somebody in WA that sells them. There are. In fact, I think, like as a general comment, your local garden centre or alternatively Bunnings, both of them tend to have ranges of worm castings that you could be getting your hands on. So well worthwhile taking a look at. Glennis has just mentioned that it's a dwarf macadamia. So Glennis, I'm going to tell you 5 to 6 years is the typical time for a macadamia to really start producing fruit. And I think, you should be seeing flower not too far away. Hopefully that's it. Well, we've been belting through the questions this morning. We've done a pretty good job, I thought. And we are just about at the end of the hour. I think we need to draw our winner from Garden Express. And the winner today is Jacinta Agar, who asked about her roses and aphids. And great question. It's a really relevant one because we do see a lot of activity with those at the moment. So Jacinta, you have got that $50 gift voucher for Garden Express. Now, what does that mean? It means that you can go shopping on gardenexpress.com.au 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and have it delivered direct to your door. How good's that? It's a really, really cool little prize. Thanks very much to our friends from Garden Express. And don't forget about the great deal that they gave us today too. Hostas, if you've got shady spots where nothing's growing underneath them, they're the ultimate shade plant. They look fantastic, beautiful foliage plant. There's a great range of them, normally $69.40. Garden Guru viewers, today, this morning, while stocks last, the $45. It's a saving of 30% off recommended retail. That is a awesome deal. And as I said to you, the way to get there is to go to gardenexpress.com.au. Should we maybe answer one more question? Marg from Belgrave. Okay, let's go through this. My water lilies were stunning last year, but the plants become too big. How do I separate them? Actually, now's excuse me, sorry. Now is the time to do it. All of mine at home have just been broken up, put into little pots, and I've got them sitting back in the pond, and they'll start to really grow out and start growing. But I just stick one of those tree planting tablets from, I use the Troforte ones, into the soil as well, and that provides the nutrients for them to grow really strongly. So now's the time to do it, is what I'm saying to you, Mark. Mark Campion from Belgrave, thank you for that. That is the final question for today. We will be back next week, and that is going to be another opportunity for you to ask questions. If you want to send in, by the way, if you want to send in any of your questions and particularly photographs, if it's something's a bit odd and it needs some explaining, then don't hesitate to send it in to us. We can have a look at it over the week. We'll put it as a priority to be answered next week, and I'll be answering your questions next week, I think from Melbourne, I'm pretty sure, or maybe from Sydney. No, I think I'm in Sydney next Friday and then in Melbourne over the weekend. So I'll have to organise at some point in each of the states when I'm there. Maybe we can all get together and have a cup of coffee one morning as well. All right, don't forget, The Garden Gurus is on Channel 9 tomorrow at 4:30. Check your local guides. There's a little bit of variation this season. We've had to move around the outside of sport a little bit, but it is back and it's happening. Remember, if you've got any questions at all you have to do is just post them here on our Facebook page. If you've got stuff that you want to research, if you're looking for a really good resource, then the gardengurus.tv, our website, is amazing. And of course, you can watch all of the stories and even these shows on our YouTube channel. There's 25,000 people subscribed to that. It's absolutely crazy. If you're in WA on Sunday, we have Our State in a Plate. Just got the most amazing numbers through from Buzz, our my good friend and our IT guy. He was just telling me that we have had 8,333,000 fact sheets downloaded since we started that. And if you think that number's big, the Garden Gurus, this will blow your mind. Garden Gurus website, since we started, it's 20 years, but we've had over 80 million fact sheets downloaded from our website. How crazy is that? It's just insane. And now, look, thanks so much again for your support and for joining us each week. I hope you had a most magnificent weekend. You get out to the garden, the weather's fine, and everything's blooming, and you are really happy. That's all I've got for you this week. Thanks to Holly D. She's done a great job again. She's a little legend, this one. I will catch you next week for another episode of the Garden Gurus Live. I'm Trevor Cochran. See you then.